Hey, for exposing my family after they tried to use my house to pay for my sister's wedding? I'm Isabella, 34, and I'm the middle daughter in a family where being responsible usually meant cleaning up whatever my older sister Lauren didn't want to deal with. I was the one who brought extra folding chairs to family dinners, remembered who couldn't eat dairy, picked up Mother's Day flowers when Lauren forgot, and stayed behind to wash dishes while everyone praised Lauren for bringing good energy. Lauren was allowed to need things. I was expected to provide them. For a long time, I thought being useful would eventually earn me the same warmth my parents gave her automatically. It never did. My mother, Carol, could turn any request into a test of character. Honey, could you take me to this appointment? Lauren has so much going on. Could you cover the catering deposit for Dad's retirement dinner? Lauren said she'll pay you back. Could you help your sister fix her credit report? You're better at paperwork. My father, Raymond, rarely made the requests himself. He waited until I hesitated, then stepped in with the same flat tone. Don't make this difficult. Your mother is already stressed. You know how your sister is. That last sentence excused almost everything. Lauren was 4 years older than me, and had always been treated as if her feelings took up more space than everyone else's. When she changed her mind, she was following her heart. When she forgot a promise, she was overwhelmed. When I said no, I was rigid. The only person who ever said that pattern out loud was my grandmother. She lived in a small old house that had been in her family for decades. It wasn't a mansion, and no one looking at it from the road would have guessed how much it meant to me. The porch leaned slightly to one side. The kitchen cabinets had been painted 3 times. One bedroom still had faded wallpaper with tiny yellow flowers. But it was where I learned to make biscuits, where Grandma kept handwritten recipe cards in a metal box, and where she let me sit at the table without asking me to solve anyone's problem. As she got older, I became the person who handled the unglamorous parts of loving her. I paid the property tax when she had a shortfall. I arranged roof repairs after a storm. I kept receipts in a kitchen drawer and called insurance companies during my lunch breaks. I drove her to appointments, sorted medication bottles, replaced a broken water heater, and spent more weekends than I can count clearing leaves from gutters. Lauren visited when there was a birthday cake or a holiday meal. My parents visited when it was convenient. I didn't resent them for that at first. Grandma and I had our own rhythm. Once, after I spent half a Saturday on the phone correcting a billing error, she slid a cup of coffee toward me and said, "You don't make a show of love. You do the work." After she died, that sentence stayed with me. Her will left me the house, along with a few keepsakes stored in a safe deposit box. Her wedding ring, my grandfather's old watch, family photographs, property records, and the recipe card she knew I loved. The will explained why. I had cared for the property, covered expenses, and helped her remain there safely. Mr. Allen, the attorney who handled the estate documents, read that section calmly while my mother stared at the table. Lauren received money from a separate account. My parents received personal items they had requested. No one was left with nothing. That didn't matter. The moment we walked out of Mr. Allen's office, my mother said, "Your grandmother was emotional at the end." "She was clear," I said. "She cared about family," Dad replied. "So do I." Lauren folded her arms. "Then you know that house shouldn't just belong to one person. It legally belongs to me." Mom gave me a wounded look like I had slapped her. That is a very cold way to talk about family property. It became family property only after it became mine. For several months the comments came in small doses. Mom suggested I let Lauren use the house for engagement photos. Dad asked whether I planned to sell it. Lauren sent me listings for renovated houses and said, "You could get way more if you updated the kitchen." Then she got engaged to Colin. First I was happy for her. Colin seemed steady and polite. He wasn't overly warm with me, but I later learned that Lauren had already told him I was competitive and weird about money. The wedding started as a normal event and expanded almost weekly. Lauren wanted a large venue, a plated dinner, custom florals, a live band, a photography package with a non-refundable retainer, and a weekend brunch for out-of-town guests. She talked about it as if wanting those things made them affordable. One Sunday, my parents invited me to dinner. The roast was still in the oven when Mom placed a venue brochure beside my plate. Lauren found her place, she said. I opened the brochure. The minimum food and beverage charge alone was more than I had expected for the entire wedding. It's pretty, I said. She deserves one beautiful day, Mom replied. Lauren smiled at me. I knew you'd understand. I looked from her to my parents. Understand what? Dad cleared his throat. There are ways the house can help. No. Mom blinked. You haven't even heard the idea. I don't need to. Grandma's house is not wedding funding. Lauren's smile disappeared. Nobody said you had to sell it. Then what are you asking? Mom softened her voice. A temporary arrangement. Some kind of property-backed support. Your father has been talking to people. I set the brochure down. You've been talking to lenders about my property? Dad leaned back. We've been gathering information. That's what families do before making decisions. It's not a family decision. Lauren pushed her plate away. Why does everything have to be a fight when it's finally my turn? I almost laughed because I couldn't remember a time when it hadn't been her turn. Instead, I said, I will give you a normal wedding gift. I will not transfer the house, borrow against it, pledge it, or use it as collateral. Mom's eyes filled immediately. Her tears had always arrived with perfect timing. You don't need it the way Lauren needs a fresh start. It's not available. Dad's jaw tightened. Don't make this ugly. I'm not discussing Grandma's house as wedding funding. I left before dessert. The next morning Aunt Ruth called. She was my mother's younger sister, and usually avoided conflict by becoming very interested in whatever was on television. Her voice was cautious. Your mother said you promised to help with the wedding and backed out. I never promised that. She said you agreed that the house could be used temporarily. No. There was a pause. I thought that sounded strange, Ruth said. By the end of the week, 2 cousins had sent me messages about supporting family. One commented under a photo Lauren posted online. Some people forget who stood by them once money is involved. Mom called and said she had no idea why everyone was taking sides. Then she added, you could end this by being reasonable. I didn't argue with her. I saved the message. I also withdrew the wedding contribution I had planned to make toward the photography balance. At that point I hadn't told anyone. I wanted to see how far they had already taken the lie. Lauren's bridal shower was held in a rented community room decorated with white fabric, fake greenery, and gold paper signs. There were folding chairs, disposable champagne flutes, a cake table, and about 40 people packed into a space meant for 30. Colin's mother and 2 of his aunts were there. Several relatives I barely knew greeted me with tight smiles. It felt like walking into a room after everyone had already discussed me. Near the end of the shower, Lauren stood beside the gift table and lifted her glass. I just want to thank everyone who is making this wedding possible, she said, already crying. Especially the people who remembered that family is more important than possessions. Mom turned toward me with a fake warm smile. It's beautiful when family finally remembers what matters, she said. People looked at me. I hadn't agreed to anything, but they were watching as if I had. Lauren continued. I know this process has been emotional. I just hope we can move forward without jealousy or resentment. Colin's expression hardened when he looked at me. I set down my untouched drink. Lauren, what exactly are you thanking me for? Mom laughed lightly. Honey, no one is attacking you. I asked a question. Dad stepped closer and lowered his voice. Don't do this here. Lauren wiped her eyes. You care more about property than family. I offered you a wedding gift. I said the house was not available. Mom's mouth tightened. After everything we've done to make the title paperwork simple for you, this is how you behave. The room went quiet. I turned to Dad. What title paperwork? He looked at Mom. It lasted less than a second, but I saw it. Panic. Dad recovered first. Paperwork is paperwork. It still needs to be finalized. Why does the title company already have paperwork involving my house? Lauren snapped. You are ruining the mood. I kept looking at my parents. Does anything have my signature on it? Mom gave a small, dismissive laugh. You sign things all the time. Stop making this sound sinister. That was the moment I knew something had already happened. I didn't shout. I didn't open my phone and start accusing anyone. I picked up my purse and said, "Do not submit anything else in my name." Dad stepped into my path. "You're making us look terrible. Move. This is bigger than your feelings." "No, Dad. It's bigger than a wedding." He moved. I walked to my car, closed the door, and sat in the parking lot until my hands stopped shaking. 3 days later, an unknown number called while I was washing a coffee mug. I let it go to voicemail. The message was from a title company working with a lender. A woman asked me to verify an authorization and gift-related property arrangement connected to an upcoming family event. I called back and gave her only enough information to confirm my identity. Then I said, "Please send every document you are asking me to verify." Her tone changed. "Are you saying you didn't submit them?" "I am saying I want copies before I answer any questions." The email arrived 20 minutes later. I printed everything and laid the pages across my kitchen counter. My coffee went cold beside me. The first page described a proposed property-backed arrangement intended to support a short-term loan. The language was careful, but the purpose was obvious. My house was supposed to create access to money for Lauren's wedding expenses. The signature looked like mine from a distance. Close, I recognized it. Years earlier, I had signed a care authorization form so I could coordinate services for Grandma after a hospital stay. My mother had received a copy with the rest of the family records. The shape of the I was identical. So was a tiny break in the last letter where my pen had skipped. They hadn't imitated my signature. They had copied it. The date beside it was from the current month, even though the signature came from a document signed years earlier. My contact email had been replaced with my mother's. My father was listed as a family representative, authorized to discuss the property arrangement. He had no authority over the house. A note in the file said I had verbally promised to support my sister's wedding, and had requested that communication go through my parents because I was difficult to reach. I stared at that sentence for a long time. They had turned my refusal into proof that I couldn't be contacted. The only reason the process had stopped was that the title company's verification system flagged a mismatch between the email on the submitted paperwork and contact information connected to the estate records. Someone had decided to call me directly before moving forward. I replied in writing. I did not consent to any gift, transfer, lien, loan support, collateral arrangement, or use of my name. I had not signed the documents. I had not authorized either parent to speak for me. Then I called Mr. Allen. He asked me to bring the documents, Grandma's estate papers, and any messages from my family. His office looked exactly as it had during the will reading. Same beige walls. Same clock that ticked too loudly. This time I didn't feel like the daughter being judged for receiving something. I felt like the owner of property someone was trying to take. Mr. Allen compared the signature page with the old care authorization. "That is the same signature image," he said. "So what happens now?" "First, nothing gets resolved by phone. You respond in writing. The title company freezes the file. The lender receives formal notice. Your parents and sister are told they have no authority to use your name or property. Can they claim this was a misunderstanding? They can claim anything. The documents will still exist." He drafted a notarized letter stating that I did not consent to any transfer, lien, collateral use, gift, or financial arrangement connected to the property. He also sent a cease and desist notice to my parents and Lauren. The title company confirmed that the transaction had been frozen pending internal review. The lender closed its approval process because the proposed support no longer existed. No authorization, no transfer, no collateral, no exception. After that, my phone became almost unusable. Mom texted first. "Just sign it and stop embarrassing us." I took a screenshot. Dad called twice. I let both calls go to voicemail. On the second message he said, "Nobody would have had to do this if you had just helped your sister. Call me before lawyers make everything worse." I saved it. Lauren sent a long message accusing me of destroying the wedding over a technicality. I replied with one sentence. "Did you know my signature was on paperwork I didn't approve?" She didn't answer for almost an hour. Then she wrote, "I didn't ask how Mom got it done because I needed one thing to be about me." I printed that too. That message hurt more than the forged signature. My parents had spent years convincing themselves that forcing me to help was the same as receiving permission. Lauren knew enough to suspect something was wrong, and she chose not to look because the lie benefited her. A week later, Mom invited me to a family dinner. She said Aunt Ruth, 2 uncles, several cousins, Colin and Colin's parents would be there. "We need to clear the air before the wedding," she said. "What you mean is that you want an audience." Her voice became soft. "Honey, no one is attacking you. We're asking you to remember what family means." I agreed to come. Before dinner, I placed 6 printed pages in a plain envelope. Not every document. Just enough. The title company's verification email. The page with my copied signature. The contact page showing Mom's email in my place. Dad's claimed authority. The 3 messages. Mr. Allen's letter confirming that I had refused authorization, and the transaction was frozen. I also brought the certified mail receipt showing that all 3 of them had received formal notice. When I arrived, the dining room was already full. The table had been extended with a folding section. Paper napkins were stacked beside the plates. Lauren sat with red eyes, and Mom kept touching her shoulder. Colin barely acknowledged me. Dinner lasted 12 minutes before Mom began. She put down her fork and sighed. "I hate that we have to discuss private matters, but Isabella is punishing her sister over money." Dad nodded. "This should never have gotten this far." Lauren looked at Colin's parents. "I just wanted one beautiful day." One of my cousins said, "Can't you be the bigger person? It's one day." I placed the envelope on the table. "I was the bigger person for years," I said. "That's why they thought my signature was available too." Nobody moved. Mom's face changed first. "Do not do this. You told everyone I broke a promise. So let's read the promise you forged." Dad pushed his chair back. "Watch your language." I took out the title company email and handed it to Aunt Ruth, who was sitting beside me. "This is the verification request for a property-backed arrangement tied to Grandma's house. I did not request it." Then I placed the signature page on the table. This signature was copied from an old care document I signed years ago. The date was changed. Mom shook her head. "That is not what happened." I slid the contact page toward Ruth. My email was replaced with Mom's. Dad was listed as a family representative, even though he has no legal authority over the property. Ruth adjusted her glasses and read the page twice. Then she looked at my mother. "Carol, why is your email where Isabella should be?" Mom's eyes filled. "Because Isabella ignores us. Someone had to keep the process moving." Colin's father stopped eating. One of my uncles looked at Dad. "What authority did you think you had?" Dad's face darkened. "We were trying to prevent a family fight." "By signing for me?" I asked. "No one signed for you. We reused an existing authorization because you had already agreed in principle." "I never agreed." Lauren spoke suddenly. "You knew the wedding depended on family helping. That is not consent." Mom started crying harder. "Your grandmother would be ashamed of what you're doing." Aunt Ruth looked up sharply. "No, she would not." The room went still. Ruth held the signature page in one hand and the altered contact page in the other. "She left the house to Isabella because Isabella handled things correctly. This is exactly why." Mom turned on her. "You have no idea what pressure I've been under. I know your email is on paperwork for a house you do not own." Colin looked at Lauren. Was her signature on something she didn't approve? Lauren looked at Mom before she answered. That was enough. Colin's voice became quieter. "Did you know?" "I knew Mom was handling it." "That's not what I asked." Lauren began to cry. "I didn't know every detail." I placed her printed text on the table. "You knew enough not to ask." Colin read it. His face went blank. Lauren reached for his arm, but he moved it away. Mom pointed at me. "You planned this. You came here to humiliate your own mother." "No. You used my name in a lie. I'm using my voice in the truth." Dad told me to stop. I handed him the transcript of his voicemail. "Nobody would have had to do this if I had helped Lauren." "That is what you said." He stared at the paper. I placed the final letter in the center of the table. The title company froze the transaction. The lender closed the wedding financing plan. Mr. Allen has notified all three of you that you are not allowed to use my name, signature, property, or contact information again. Any future communication about the house goes through him and must be in writing. Lauren's mouth opened. You canceled the loan? I didn't cancel your loan. I refused to let my property secure it. The venue payment is due next week. That's not my responsibility. Mom whispered. You're destroying her wedding. I didn't ruin the wedding. I stopped my name from being used to pay for it. Dad leaned toward me. Do you understand what this will cost us? Yes. That's why you shouldn't have done it. I had spent years explaining myself until everyone else's feelings became more important than the original harm. I didn't do that this time. I kept my voice level. I am not providing wedding money. I am not signing anything. I am not discussing Grandma's house verbally. I will not pay for legal costs caused by your actions. I am done being treated like an emergency fund with a pulse. No one called me jealous after that. Colin asked Lauren to leave with him. She tried to insist they should stay and finish this as a family, but he said, I need to understand what I'm marrying into. His parents followed them out. My mother cried at the table. My father accused Aunt Ruth of taking sides. Two cousins stared at their plates. One of my uncles asked for a copy of the attorney's letter because he wanted to understand exactly what had happened. I didn't stay for dessert. In the driveway, Ruth caught up with me. I should have asked more questions sooner, she said. You asked before most people did. She looked back at the house. Your grandmother knew who she could trust. That was the first thing anyone in my family had said about the inheritance that didn't make it sound like something I had stolen. The financial consequences arrived quickly, but not magically. The title company completed its review and confirmed in writing that no transaction would proceed. The lender withdrew the proposed approval. Mr. Allen sent a demand for reimbursement of the legal and document costs I had incurred responding to the unauthorized paperwork. My parents resisted until he made it clear that continued misuse could expose them to a civil claim, and that the companies involved had their own fraud review procedures. They eventually signed an agreement to reimburse me for $3,400 in legal fees, certified mail, record copies, and related costs. The payment came in 2 installments. Dad wrote "family misunderstanding" in the memo line of the first check. I photographed it before depositing it. Lauren's wedding was not canceled. It was reduced. The venue contract remained, but the larger package did not. The plated dinner became a smaller buffet. The live band was replaced by a DJ. The floral order was cut. The morning brunch disappeared. She lost part of one deposit and couldn't recover the photography retainer, so she had to move money from other parts of the budget. For years, my parents had taught her that a crisis would always produce someone else's sacrifice. This time it produced fewer centerpieces. Colin did not end the engagement, but he delayed combining finances with Lauren. He also insisted on reviewing every wedding contract and every debt before they moved forward. Lauren blamed me for that too. He doesn't trust me now because of you, she said in one of the last phone calls I answered. No. He doesn't trust you because he asked whether you knew, and you couldn't say no. She hung up. 2 of Colin's relatives contacted me separately and apologized for believing I was trying to sabotage the wedding. One said Lauren had told them I was withholding money I had already promised. I sent a brief reply. I never made that promise. I didn't send the evidence again. I no longer needed to campaign for a verdict. Mom tried several versions of an apology. The first was, I'm sorry you felt cornered. The second was, I'm sorry the paperwork became confusing. The third was, I'm sorry lawyers got involved. None of them included what she had done. Dad's apology came by text. Things got out of hand. We were trying to help your sister. I hope one day you can move past this. I replied, I will move forward when you can name what you did without blaming the situation. He never answered. I changed the locks on Grandma's house even though no one had entered without permission. I updated the property file, added a fraud alert where appropriate, and arranged for all future title or estate communication to come directly to me. The safe deposit box inventory was updated too. Grandma's ring, Grandpa's watch, the photographs, the recipe cards, and the property records stayed where no one could borrow them for family reasons. I stopped being the automatic solution to every problem. When Mom called because a bill was overdue, I gave her the company's phone number instead of paying it. When Lauren asked me to cover a wedding balance just until gifts came in, I said no. When Dad said the family was falling apart because I had become cold, I ended the call. The wedding happened with fewer guests and fewer extras. I attended the ceremony, gave Lauren a card, and left after dinner. I didn't make a scene. I didn't mention the loan. I didn't rescue anyone from the consequences either. A few weeks later, I spent a quiet morning in Grandma's kitchen. The old clock over the sink was 5 minutes slow, just as it had always been. I made coffee, opened the metal recipe box, and found a card in her handwriting with flour smudged across one corner. For the first time since she died, the house felt like something I was allowed to love instead of something I had to defend. I still wish my parents could admit that they hurt me. Part of me may always want that. But wanting accountability is not the same as waiting forever for people to provide it. They believed family loyalty meant I should surrender quietly. I learned that generosity without consent is not generosity at all. I didn't steal anything from my sister. I just stopped my family from stealing from me politely. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.